So in the next minute or two, find a seat. Thank you.
It took him 2 minutes. Wow. Because during the septic crisis, I had unscrewed the cover to it was fine, so I put this screw and screwed it all the way down because I had this crisis happening. And it turns out well on the breaker vibrating connections. So all the guy had to do was get a screwdriver and screw it. And he said, I feel embarrassed for hours. So I was charging for the regular. Yeah.
It's not a well person actually in the mountain, but I'm trying to think on the phone because I knew it wasn't check out they found the crowd. There's no clients guy out there anywhere.
Yeah. Can you try to fly? I flew once when I was sick, and
Well, what about the whole game?
sorry.
We love Eddie Williamson, and we're so glad you're in that. So I guess.
We're really glad you're here.
Oh, did this see why I didn't know my mother arm?
As far as
They said I got the smell.
yes.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, I got in the way of your camera. I didn't
No,
realize
that's
it was
fine.
there. I was sitting in the back. I just couldn't hear anybody. So
Yeah.
I moved the front. I even had trouble hearing our guest of honor, even though they had the mic. It was just, I don't know. It was just my hearing.
Oh, no, that's fine.
The room seems kind of dead.
Yeah.
Yes, you know. We'll start very soon.
Okay, no problem.
Hello, everybody. Sorry, I gotta get the right distance here. Is this acceptable without blowing out your eardrums? Fantastic. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 46th Annual Williamson Lectureship. We have a series of events planned, some of which took place this morning and last night, and we have many more afterwards. Please see the program or our website, enu.edu/sci5. Both myself and the lectureship committee are delighted to see everyone here. I hope you all appreciate the new interactive art installation on our tables that are creatively born from a desire to see your respective doodles and definitely not for new catering costs. An event such as this takes a great amount of work each year, and I wanted to offer some thanks before we go much further. First, I want to thank our guest authors for joining us despite the long, dusty drives it requires. Guest authors, please raise your hands. I don't want to make you get up on your knees. Thank you. I also want to thank the hefty work from the lectureship committee. Lectureship committee members, please raise your hands. Thank you all. The committee's been hard at work, from developing panel topics to posting posters to spending their lunch breaks yesterday cutting tablecloth covers for you. I want to also thank the Culinary Arts Program for their efforts, catering our dinner last night and helping with refreshments this afternoon. Digital Film and Theater also offered a space for our welcome event last night and a screening of student short films, which were really fun. There was a lot of great stuff going on there, so thank you. Comm services and duplicating services both have put up with quite a lot for me and done a bang-up job to boot. And I also want to thank the bookstore for offering book options for all of you avid readers here. And last but not least, I want to thank all of you for being here with us. The Williamson Lectureship is truly a unique and magical event, and one of the things I am most happy to be part of here at ENMU. I've had a long-time love of science fiction and fantasy, stemming as far back as I have memory. One of the most magical gifts I ever received came when I was 10 years old from a former Big Brother from the Big Brothers and Big Sisters program. As he was leaving the country, he decided to bring me a few books that he couldn't take with him, and he thought I'd like them. He dropped off over 200 paperbacks crammed into a few dozen shoeboxes. I was in heaven. My mother was less enthused, possibly perplexed at how we'd fit it all in our very tiny apartment. But these books by Asimov, Piers Anthony, Tolkien, Terry Brooks, Fritz Lieber, Anne McCaffrey, and many others were a bedrock for me. Every time life threw its casual cruelties my way, science fiction and fantasy was there for me, again and again and again. And now I'm here with all of you at a lectureship dedicated to this field. You can see what's written on paper about it. The lectureship began when Jack retired in '77 and carried on his efforts as the Dean of Science Fiction to encourage engagement between writers of science fiction and academics. But this doesn't give the full picture. What makes this event truly special is its way of bringing people together, authors, scholars, students, and community members, into the same shared conversations in a way that isn't a fan convention, isn't an academic conference, but somehow takes the best parts of each. I'm continuously amazed that I get to be part of this event every year. And I want to thank all of you for being here with us again. So thank all of you. Now, to continue on, what if this has to work? So, continue on to something we started a couple years ago. We have our trivia game. We will have 10 questions now and 10 questions at the close. There's a few different formats. There was also a request to increase the difficulty this year. So I'm trying to include a mix of things in here. So if you'll notice at each of your tables, there's a dry erase placard. Okay? You have a table number on one side and dry erase on the other. Keep score here. So, okay, is everybody ready for these questions? No? All right, here we go. Question 1. In A Memory Called Empire, what is the name and correct spelling of the empire the cell ambassador is sent to? The name and correct spelling. I'm sorry, please no opening your phones or checking the books. Looking at you, table 1. Oh no, that's part of the question. All right. Table 10, flip it around. Okay. All right, is everybody ready? The correct spelling is the Texacolani Empire, spelled T-E-I-X-C-A-L-A-A-N-I. I will accept it without the I, to be fair. Without the L? Fair enough. All right, so raise your hand if you got the spelling here. All right, so that's table 8. Table 8. Anybody else get it? With the without the I or the L? Wow, all right. All right, thank you. That's which table number? 5. Excellent. All right. Again, I got many requests to increase the difficulty, so you're welcome. Question 2. What's the title of this novel? What is the title of that novel? Going. All right, are we ready? It is A Wrinkle in Time. All right, keep your placards up if you got it right here. I've got, so that's table 2, table 3, table 4, is that 5? Are we got 5 over there? Yes, okay, great, thank you. Table 6, table 7. Oh, apparently this one wasn't hard enough. Okay. Table 8, table 9. Anyone else? All right, thank you all. Question 3. In the sci-fi television series Red Dwarf, who do we learn is Dave Lister's father? I was told that the Red Dwarf question last time was far too easy. So. Gone. Or the answer was, his father was Dave Lister through a time travel event. So we've got table 2. Is that table 6? Table 8. Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Question 4. In Rebecca Roanhorse's Black Sun, there are 4 active Sky-made clans. I mean this at the end of Black Sun. Golden Eagle, Carrion Crow, Winged Serpent, and... I feel like one table may have an advantage. Are you ready? Going, gone. It is Water Strider. So we've got table 5. All right, is that table 7? Table 11? Was anybody else? All right, question 5. 1987 saw 2 sci-fi films that star the same 2 actors that would later go on to become U.S. state governors. What are these films? In all fairness, I'll take at least one of them. Are you ready? Going, gone. The 2 films are Predator and Running Man, both of which star Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jesse Ventura. All right, tables that got it right. We have, again, I'll take one of them, that's fine. 4, 7, 5. Anybody else? There we go. 6, 8. Anybody else? Did I get you 3? I'm sorry. Okay. Question 6. In Herbert's Dune series, what is the name and correct spelling of the Fremen word for sandworms? I'll be relaxed on punctuation here because it's been published multiple ways. Going, gone. Shai-Hulud. So who's got that? We've got table 4, table 5, table 6, table 7, table 8, table 10, and table 11. All right. In which of Jack Williamson's works did he originate the term psionics? Again, somebody else. Going, gone. The Greatest Invention, astounding science fiction. Anybody get that one? All right. 2 more questions for now. Question 8. And again, I'm sorry, one table will definitely have an advantage. In Dorinda Jones's Charlie Davidson series, who is the first spirit to pass through Charlie into the afterlife? Oh, wow, Dorinda. I'm sorry. Who's the first spirit to pass through? One table gets this. Anybody? Going, gone. It's her mother who died giving childbirth to her. So we've got table 2 and table 8. All right. Question 9. Who's won the most Nebula awards for best novel? Who has won the most Nebulas for best novel? Going, gone. It is Ursula K. Le Guin. She won 4 and was nominated for 6 total. Did anybody get that one? Okay. Last question for now. Then a lot of people thought it should have been Connie's. All right, last one for now. I think at least a couple people will have an advantage on this one. Which science fiction author wrote the first screenplay for The Empire Strikes Back? Going, gone. It is, of course, Lee Brackett. All right, so we've got tables. Who's got it? Table 2. Did table 1 get it? No? Okay. Table 3? Table 4? Table 5? Oh, man. Was this one too easy, I guess? Okay. Table 8? And table 10. Did I miss table 6? Oh, I got you. Okay, my bad. Gotcha. Good deal. All right, thank you all. Let me tell you the count till the score tallies down. In the lead is table 8 with 7. Coming up on their heels, tables 5 and 6 with 6. Coming behind that is tables 2 and 4 with 2 and 4 with 4 each. Oh, and yes. And then table 3 and table 10 have 3. Table 11 has 2. Table 9 has 1. Did I say, oh, you're at 4, I'm sorry. My bad. Okay. All right, table 9. Pick it up. Pick it up. Tanika. Sam, come on. All right, y'all. So without further ado, then, we will continue. We'll finish off our questions at the end here. But for now, I will turn things over to Connie Willis.
Okay. I'd like to speak to all of you people who thought it was a good idea to have harder questions this year. What is the matter with you? So, and also, I really liked it that Dorinda did not know the answer to her own question. I think I never know the answer to my questions. I appreciated that. So, hi, I would like to welcome you all to the Williamson Lectureship. This year is the 46th annual lectureship and the 2nd annual in-person, non-Zoom, post-pandemic lectureship, more importantly. It's so great to be here in person with everybody again. The pandemic practically killed me. I could talk to anybody and I especially could not smile at anybody, and that just about killed me. So this year is a little different. My daughter and I, Cordelia and I drove down together. My husband could not come because he's running an AAPT meeting really right now and watching the dog for us. And we called him this morning, and he had attempted to go to the fabric store in Loveland and had to turn back because it is snowing so hard. So Cordelia and I will not be going home at all. We drove down in kind of a Thelma and Louise kind of thing, except without the Grand Canyon, without the whole Grand Canyon thing. And stopping at virtually every single 7-Eleven and gas station, and purchasing corn nuts and high chews and bird peanuts and red licorice and Rocky Road candy bars and Cheetos and beef jerky and fudge. It was really fun. We had a great time. So I'm delighted to be here. I see some new faces and lots of familiar faces that have been to the lectureship before. This is a great turnout. And I want to say welcome to all of you and catch you up a bit on what's going on in the world. First, for us out-of-towners, Portales demolished its grain elevator, which the Portales News Tribune said alters the skyline of Portales. It was the skyline of Portales. And then I had really a lot of trouble trying to find Portales this time because I always go by the grain elevator, and now it's gone. However, if you miss the demolishing of the grain elevator, all you have to do, according to Betty Williamson, is to ask anybody in town because they all have it on video and on their phones. And so just, how many of you have the wrecking ball on video on your phone? See, just ask somebody. Yeah, and it's the biggest thing that's ever happened in Portales. So, and Betty said the worst part about it was that she thought it would be really exciting that it was a wrecking ball rather than just, where they blow it up and then it's gone. But instead it took days and days and days, and wrecking balls just aren't that great. So anyway, that was the big news here. Also, Portales is planning to get speed cameras. So for those of you who are driving now, that means that Santa Rosa will not be the only place where you will get a speeding ticket, like I did. And you will have to actually pay attention to the speed limits in town. In Exploding Cow news, I always try to do exploding cow stories because one time I was here, and then another time there was a train wreck, and some more cows exploded. And so I looked at all the exploding cow stories for Taos, but I hate to say anything. You guys have been outdone because Texas just had a dairy field blow up and 18,000 cows exploded. So you are going to have to do better next year. So in Roswell news, since Roswell is just down the street from you, the makers of the documentary Alien Autopsy, Fact or Fiction. How many of you have seen this document? Yeah, Emily's seen it. Yeah, see, you've all seen it. They admitted finally that the autopsy footage they showed, which had supposedly been shot by the U.S. Army in 1947, had actually been faked using a department store dummy, chicken intestines, and strawberry jam. Everyone was shocked to find out that this was a fake. I had no idea. Also, I had no idea that there was gambling going on in Rick's Cafe in Casablanca. So, and then other UFO news. Actually, UFO news has been kind of slim this year, but there was a flying saucer spotted down in Florida, which turned out to be an inflatable camping tent, which had been caught up by the wind, thrown into the sky, and floated for some distance. They did not say in the story whether anyone had been inside the inflatable camping tent, so we can only hope. So, and when I looked up interesting stories to tell you that were not political, there were just almost none. But there was a lot of holiday-linked news this year. So, on the 4th of July, police departments all over issued warnings about fireworks, and some of my favorites were, do not try to dismantle fireworks which failed to go off to see what went wrong with them. Do not tie fireworks to your head. Do not use fireworks while impaired by alcohol, which explains 1 and 2 there. And this is my favorite. Do not light fireworks while inside your car. The sad thing, about these warnings is that you know that they are only there because someone has actually done these things. Like, do not drive car with sun shield in place. And do not iron shirt while wearing. And caution, remove child from stroller before folding up. And this is one of my favorites. It was on a large cardboard Santa that I bought just to take to the front door, the kind of thing. And it said, do not hold over open flame. So some of my other all-time favorites include one on an iPod shuffle that said, do not eat. And one in a church that said, caution, articles of value should not be left on pews while going up to receive Holy Communion. And my personal favorite, which was on a bottle of my dog's prescription for Rimadyl, which said, warning, may cause drowsiness. Use care when operating car. There were lots of warnings for Halloween too, of course. This year, in addition to warning people not to eat unwrapped candy and to wear costumes that could be seen by motorists at night, there were warnings against using makeup inside your mouth and putting a plastic bag over your head for your pumpkin or dinosaur costume, and using super glue to glue your fangs on for your Dracula costume. Moving on, at Thanksgiving, we had a shortage of turkeys this year, and people were forced to come up with substitutes, which meant that people would cook a turducken, which is a turkey stuffed with a duck, which is stuffed with a chicken. Please don't ask me why people do these things. I just report the news, okay? Anyway, they were really out of luck, and they had to substitute Peking duck stuffed with a Cornish game hen stuffed with a can of Spain. So, at Christmas, in a modern day, yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus thing. A little girl, we were talking about Santa Claus this morning, so a little girl in Rhode Island sent a partially eaten sugar cookie and a half-empty glass of milk to the police department and asked them to analyze it for Santa's DNA. The police did and concluded, we are not able to definitively confirm or refute the presence of Santa. Something magical may be at play, which was nice. On Groundhog Day, as you all know, and as my husband really knows today since it's snowing, Punxsutawney Phil saw his shadow, condemning everybody in the US to at least 6 more weeks of winter, though this year for us it seemed like about 60. But that wasn't as bad as what happened in Canada. When they went to pull their groundhog, Quebec's Fred Le Marmot, out of its cage, it was dead. I don't really know what that means weather-wise, but I have a feeling it's not good. So, St. Patrick's Day was marked by a whole bunch of people following Barack Obama's footsteps, trying to pretend that they were Irish, including Annie Oakley, Oscar the Grouch, the state of Oklahoma, and Agatha Christie's estate, who tried to claim her novel was really named Murder on the Orient Express. On April Fool's Day, Welch's announced ranch dressing flavored gummies. Domino's announced a crust-only pizza. McDonald's introduced nugget boots, which are kind of like Uggs. Actually, they're a lot like Uggs. And Subaru, famous for its Forester, and in keeping with its slogan, more than a car company, supposedly introduced its new line of snacks for the road, the Subaru Forager. A granola snack because as Subaru says in its ad, expert road trippers know no adventure is complete without a proper stock of snacks. So true, so true. Their granola contains, according to the ad that they put out on April Fool's, nuts, grains, the promise of the open road, macrobiotic twigs and sticks, steam from Old Faithful, some berries we found in the woods, organic compost, and traces of water from the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. According to the package, it may also contain some dog hair, but that can be removed fully. For Easter, or as we call it at my house, Peeps Day, Peeps introduced Peeps Oreos, Peeps cereal, and Peeps beer, as well as several new flavors of the iconic bunnies and chicks, including cotton candy Peeps, fruit punch Peeps, Dr. Pepper Peeps, kettle corn Peeps, hot tamale Peeps, and ham and deviled eggs Peeps. Okay, I made that last one up. Not Peeps, I did not, however, make up Peeps eyeshadow, Peeps Dr. Pepper, which they are calling Dr. Pepper, and Peeps boxer shorts, which you can buy on Amazon. And I see 80 people pulling out their phones to buy Peeps boxer shorts. After Peeps Day came National Submarine Day, National Grilled Cheese Sandwich Day, National Laundry Day, and now here we are celebrating the most important holiday of the year, the Jack Williamson Lectureship Day. For you, those of you who are newcomers, a little bit of background. The lectureship was started by Jack Williamson, who was a professor here at Eastern New Mexico University and one of the forefathers of science fiction. To say Jack was an extraordinary person was actually an understatement. He came to New Mexico in a covered wagon and had an asteroid named after him. He didn't go to school until the 4th grade and ended up getting a PhD, being on the cover of Newsweek, and having a university building named after him, which you were all in yesterday. He wrote stories on a battered secondhand typewriter in a shack in the middle of a pasture with rattlesnakes rattling under the floorboards, and won every award the science fiction community had to offer, becoming a Grand Master of Science Fiction and winning a Lifetime Achievement Award from the World Horror Writers Association. He published his first story the year after Lindbergh flew across the Atlantic, and his last novel a year after Rover landed on Mars. He inspired Isaac Asimov, who wrote him a fan letter, Ray Bradbury, Carl Sagan, and entire generations of scientists and science fiction writers. Jack was in at the start of science fiction, writing stories like Nonstop to Mars and The Wizard's Isle, and helping shape the field in its early years. Not only were many of his works groundbreaking, like With Folded Hands and Darker Than You Think, but he helped create the very language of science fiction, inventing ideas and words like yes, psionics, terraforming, androids, and genetic engineering. And he's the only science fiction author that I know of who has words in the Oxford English Dictionary. He inspired and taught countless young writers and continued to write until he died, publishing work in every decade from the 1920s through the 2000s, the only science fiction writer to span not only 2 centuries, but 2 millennia. He also worked tirelessly to get science fiction taken seriously as literature and to get it taught in schools and colleges. And he brought science fiction home to New Mexico and Portales through the lectureship, bringing writers like Robert Silverberg, Harlan Ellison, Melinda Snodgrass, Greg Benford, Nalo Hopkinson, and George R. Martin here to speak. He was beloved by everybody who knew him for his kindness and generosity and wisdom. One of the many wise things he said was, "The joy of science, the power of mathematics, the elation of discovery. That's the mystery of natural creation. Galaxies and planets, life and mind, thrown from the fire and dust out of the Big Bang. That's the enchantment of science. New vistas of wonder exploding out of every advance." That love of science and the sense of wonder is what the Williamson Lectureship is all about, and that's what we're all here today to celebrate. One of the most extraordinary things Jack did was to bring dozens of famous science fiction, fantasy, and horror writers into coming to Portales, which you guys really do have to admit is at the end of nowhere. The list of people who come to the lectureship includes 7 Grand Masters: Robert Silverberg, Frederick Pohl, Harlan Ellison, James Gunn, Nalo Hopkinson, me, and of course Jack, as well as Christine Catherine Rush, William Gibson, Michael Swanwick, Carrie Bond, Stephen Gould, Stephen R. Donaldson, Brett Saberhagen, Greg Benford, Jerry Purnell, Roger Zelazny, Nancy Kress, George R. Martin, and our guest of honor today. And now I want to introduce the guest of honor and all of our special guests. But before I do, I need to pay tribute to those who are no longer with us. It seems like, sadly, every year we have to say goodbye to somebody who's been a part of the lectureship. In past years, we have said goodbye to lectureship guests Ed Bryant and Gardner Dessois and Fred Pohl and Vic Milan, and to lectureship mainstays like Jim and Nancy Williamson, and Rick and Jean Hauptman, and Betty Williamson's husband, Nick Mills Bickley. This year, alas, is no different, and we have to say goodbye to Greg Baer, who was a guest at this conference, and who died in November from complications from heart surgery, and to Susie McKee Charnas, who died in January of a heart attack. We will miss them both. Of course, the person it was hardest to say goodbye to was Jack Williamson, who for so many years was the heart and soul of this conference. But the lectureship he founded continues and thrives, and we have some wonderful guests this year, and I want to introduce them, and I am going to make them stand up. In no particular order, Walter John Williams, stand up. The Nebula Award-winning author of This Is Not a Game, Deep State, City on Fire, the Dread Empire's Fall series, the Praxis novels, and Quillifer. He is also the founder and head of the Taoist Toolbox Writing Workshop. Dorinda Jones, who can't remember the names of her own characters. The award-winning New York Times bestselling author of paranormal romances such as the Dark Light Trilogy, Death in the Girl series, Summons to the 13th Grade, and A Bad Day for Sunshine. Emily Ma, author under the name of E.M. Tippett of Time and Eternity, the Shattered Castle series, My Wicked Half-Sister, Someone Else's Fairy Tale, Hate Me True, and most recently, Whatever After, and under the name Emily Ma, Crypto Science, Polar Shift, and Chasing Sunrise. She's also the manager of Book Designs, which offers formatting, cover designs, and editing services to authors and publishers. Rebecca Roanhorse, who was last year's guest. And Rebecca, thank you so much for coming back again. When we get them and then we don't let them go. Is the Nebula and Sturgeon Memorial Award winning author of Welcome to Your Authentic Indian Experience trademark, Trail of Lightning, Storm of Locusts, Black Sun, Fevered Star, and Tread of Angels. Ian Tregillis. Ian's an author who's a physicist who's done research on radio galaxies and the author of The Mechanical, The Rising, The Liberation, Something More Than Night, and Bitter Seeds. He's also a regular contributor to the Wild Card series. Reese Hogan. another of our New Mexico writers, the author of Shrouded Loyalties, Holding the Ashes, The Deadliest Echo, and My Heart is Human, and a content writer for the Writing Mastery Academy. Jeffy Kennedy. Jeffy is the author of fantasy romance and paranormal romances, including Promised Queen, The Fiery Crown, The Orchid Throne, and The Long Night of the Radiant Star. Sorry, I can't read my notes. And winner of the Romance Times BET Fantasy Romance Award and the Frank Nelson Doubleday Memorial Award. Serena Ulibarri. Serena is a short fiction author and the editor-in-chief for World Weaver Press, publishing fantasy, science fiction, and paranormal books such as Glass and Gardens, Solarpunk Summers, and Solarpunk Winters. Lauren Tufo. Lauren is the author of Implanted and the novel Implanted and many short stories. Implanted was a finalist for the Crompton Crook Award for Best First Science Fiction Novel. Okay, Vivian Shaw. Vivian writes contemporary fantasy, including Strange Practice, Dreadful Company, and Grave Importance, and is a reviewer for the Washington Post. And is holding up her book. Okay. Tiffany Trent. Tiffany Trent is a fantasy writer and the author of the YA Polymere series and the two big book series, The Unnaturalist. Anne McLaughlin. Anne is a fantasy writer who writes as A.M. Ross and the author of Falling Silver and The Chimerae. I probably got that wrong. Okay, Sarah Nichols. Sarah, who writes as S.E. Burr, is the author of numerous middle grade fiction books and a Goblin Girl, Goblin Winter, and Goblin Fruit. Steve Hafner. Steve Hafner is the editor and publisher of Hafner Press, which is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year, and has done limited editions of the limited collections of the works of Robert Bloch, Henry Kuttner, and of course Jack Williamson. He is currently working on a collection of Manly Wade Wellness. Cordelia Willis. Cordelia is our resident Nancy Drew, a criminalist at the Santa Clara Crime Lab in San Jose, California, expert in blood spatter, shoe prints, cell phone crime, and crime scene analysis, as well as a community theater actress and choreographer, appearing appropriately most recently as Professor Plum in Clue, the musical. She's also my daughter, and people all weekend have been coming up to me and saying, I know I shouldn't say this to you, but she's my favorite thing at the lectureship, which makes every mother proud. So, okay, the bubonic conjure. Jessica Coyle and the rest of the Bubonicon group, who run one of the best science fiction conventions in the country and make it one of the most fun. If you had a good time here, you should come to this Bubonicon this year, which is August 25th through 27th, is that right? In Albuquerque, and which has Rebecca Roanhorse and Carrie Vaughn as guests of honor, so it should be fun. And then Pat, you have to stand up again. This is Patricia Rogers, who in addition to the many, many things she does, got NASA to name something after Jack Williamson on Mars. A feature on one of the ridges at Opportunity site, is that right? Yeah.
Spirit or opportunity, I'm not sure.
Okay, okay, but a feature, so there, Jack Williamson is now a feature on Mars, which is wonderful. Very appropriate. Okay, Gene Bundy. A long time and now retired librarian of special collections, including the Jack Williamson collection, and mainstay of the lectureship. And Melvita Walker, is she here today? Who is CNMU's library director and supporter of the lectureship. And David Sweeten. He's Associate Professor of English and Graduate Coordinator at ENMU and Chairman of the Lectureship and runs the Desperate Optimists. And we really, really, really appreciate you running this lectureship. So, and then finally, I have to introduce my two sisters, Betty Williamson and Keith Caldwell. And these two women have held the lectureship together with spit and string for years and years and years. And I always introduce them as my sisters, and I say, you know, we were separated at birth. And I did say that until one year after the lectureship luncheon, somebody came up to me and said, how did that happen exactly, that the three of you got separated at birth? They're okay, so my figurative adopted sisters, but they both do so much for the lectureship, and we really appreciate it. So, and finally, I need to introduce our guest of honor this year, Arkady Martin. And I have to say, in this year's guest of honor, you know, they're going to have co-guests of honor at WanaCon. We have kind of co-guest of honor here. We have, because in this year's guest of honor, we get a twofer because Arkady, right? Arkady Martin, I'm sorry, I always get her name wrong. Arkady Martin lives a double life. In one of them, she's Dr. Anna Linden Weller, a city planner, historian, and climate and energy policy activist. And in her other life, she's Arkady Martin, a Hugo Award-winning science fiction writer and the author of the Texcalan series novels, A Memory Called Empire and A Desolation Called Peace, both of which were Hugo winners and Nebula and Locus Award winners, nominees. The books have been described as a brilliant blend of cyberpunk, space opera, and political thriller, and are noted for her amazing characterization and world building. She's also written numerous science fiction, fantasy, and horror stories, including Horus, All the Colors You Thought Were Kings, Fear Death by Water, and When the Fall Is All That's Left. Arkady/Anna Linden is the child of classical musicians, grew up in New York City, went to college in Chicago and Oxford, has lived in Turkey, Canada, Sweden, and Baltimore, and now lives in Santa Fe with her wife, author Vivian Shaw. She's currently a policy advisor for the New Mexico Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resources Department. She's an expert on the Byzantine Empire, a poet, and a climate activist. And on second thought, possibly maybe a double life is not enough. She might name 3 or 5 or 9, like the cat that cloning, or the cat that you do not have at this point, but really would like to have. So please welcome our guest of honor this year, Arkady Martin.
I'm never bored, usually tired. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the introduction and for the news of the world, which sometimes I feel like I miss. I thought that I would talk a little bit about, for this lecture, or keynote, or whatever it is exactly. I ended up thinking that I spent all morning at the reading talking about what I'm working on now, and no one's read it yet. So actually, I think I kind of want to talk about what people have read, which is the Texcalan books, which is what people know me for, and which I am deeply, deeply proud of, and which actually, the theme of this conference, when there's it's Climates of Empire, like, okay, I gotta do this for real. I have to break out why I wrote a bunch of space opera by the Sand Dunes. So, A Memory Called Empire was the first novel I ever managed to write all the way through. And this, novels are terrible, they've got way too many words in them. I still find it very difficult to write novels. I write short stories mostly. But if I'm gonna write a novel, it stands to reason that it's science fiction, which is the mode of narrative expression I find the most natural. It's the genre I write when I'm not trying really, really hard to write something else. And it's a reflection distilled a bit, maybe sharpened at the edges a little of what I spent a decade of my life immersed in, my first career as a Byzantine historian, and that is imperialism. Imperialism in the Byzantine mode. In another life, I was a historian. There are no other lives. I'm still a historian. In 2014, I went to Uppsala University in Sweden to do a postdoctoral project. I was part of a team of researchers thinking about Byzantine narratives and narrative making in art, in poetry, in epigraphy, inscriptions on things, in historiography. That was my job, that was my part of it. And I spent 3 years there. And the research I did was about the contacts between Byzantium and its eastern frontier, which in my case was particularly Armenia, during the 11th century. And how those contacts were remembered and represented and narrativized by the people who lived through them. The project I was doing was very much about borderlands. It was about borderlands actually as trauma spaces, about history and memory as attempts to narratively repair a wounded sense of the world. And while I was in Sweden, supposed to be writing a book about Byzantium, nonfiction, academic publishing, instead I wrote a memory called Empire. I have like 2/3 of the nonfiction book. I'm probably going to keep cutting it to parts and using it in different places. Same 3 years. The very short version of how Byzantine history informs a memory called Empire goes like this. In the year 1044 AD, the Byzantine Empire annexed the small Armenian kingdom of Ani. And the empire was able to do this for a lot of reasons: political, historical, military. But the precipitating incident involved the Catholicos of the Armenian Apostolic Church, basically their version of, and the Catholicos at the time was named Petrus, and it was determined to prevent the forced conversion of the Armenians to the Byzantine form of Christianity. And he was willing to go to the capital, to go to Constantinople, and trade the physical sovereignty of the kingdom of Ani to the Byzantine emperor in exchange for a promise of spiritual sovereignty. And when I started writing a memory called Empire, the question that I was thinking about was my insight was, what's it like to be that guy? To betray your culture's freedom in order to save your culture. So the book is full of all of the ideas that I was obsessed with for most of my 20s. And they're ideas like, how does an empire impose narrative? How do the people that narrative is being imposed on reuse it or reshape it? My PhD dissertation was on letters from Byzantine diplomats stationed on the frontier to each other, and how they used the form of letter writing. Letters are really very specific in Byzantium, like they're super formulaic. To how they use them to reinforce and make real again their own narrative of Byzantium as the center of the world, the only real place, the ecumenical, all-eternal empire. And those letters aren't the only records we have of the diplomats. When we look at other historical records, like chronicles, things from Islamic sources, they appear to be doing things that are really very syncretic, very real. They're doing politics on the ground. And they react to local conditions, and they're very good at it. But when they write about it, when they write to each other about what they're doing, they don't talk about that. They repeat these forms that recreate the experience of Byzantium being the center of the world, of being unchanged by their experience in Borderlands. So that experience is somehow existentially threatening to them, to their sense of how the world works. There's this overlayer in their letters of their attempt to preserve their own imperialist narrative. And I was fascinated by that, I still am. And I wrote my dissertation about it, and I took that work forward in this postdoc I was doing. And I wanted to explore questions like, how do historiographies of the same event represent different attempts to control this narrative? And I encountered these things, have one version of a terrible military disaster, which is deeply triumphalist, and a second narrative, which is equally triumphalist, but also apocalyptic. And I had this very emotional and direct response to that. You can't really do emotional and direct so much in academic work unless you are extremely good and extremely lucky. But I always felt emotional and direct about it. So, to quote Patrick Nielsen Hayden, who was probably quoting someone else, history is the trade secret of science fiction. And as I mentioned, I love science fiction best of all genres. It's the language I speak in the dark or when startled. And I particularly love space opera. And I always have. The Star Wars universe, Grand Herbert's Dune, these enormous, sprawling, visually lush, politically rich, space-based universes that are at the heart of what I think of as space opera as a genre. And it's also the opera part that I love. Narrative that's high intensity, high drama, vivid emotionally and vivid conceptually. And far future science fiction is my favorite place to interrogate large philosophical and ethical questions from sideways angles. I mean, at heart, A Memory Called Empire is concerned with what happens to people who live under conditions of cultural imperialism, and how best can civilization honor and maintain the memory of its ancestors. But I'm looking at those questions, from a place where the cultural imperialism is created in part by wormhole travel mechanics, and in part by the standard imperialist practice of devaluing local cultural production and labeling it barbarian, where the memory maintenance is done by actual transmission of the minds of ancestors, or by cloning, or by intense emulation of model people from epic poetry. Sideways angles to examine intense questions why. I wrote this book, I got it published, and so here's the thing, I never actually thought that it was going to have a huge reception at all. I thought, okay, I wrote a good book, I can probably find an agent, they can probably sell it for a reasonable, if modest advance, and 500 people are going to be really happy. This is not what happened, and I'm slightly puzzled, but thanks, people. So I ended up writing a sequel to A Memory Called Empire, which was not initially, when I first thought about it, what I was going to do. It could have been one book. But if A Memory Called Empire was about what to do about falling in love with a culture that devours yours, the sequel, A Desolation Called Peace, is about whether there are better answers than apocalyptic violence when you encounter something that is so other to you that it's incomprehensible. And for me, the one question follows directly from the other. There are two halves of the same coin. And I've been thinking about them for a very long time. Maybe since I was in graduate school doing Byzantine history. I took a course in global comparative empire, which was great, actually, wonderful. And when I think about it from 30,000 feet up, that course did more to shift what kinds of stories I wanted to tell, and what kind of history I wanted to write, what kind of policy I want to push for in my current gig as an energy and climate policy person. More than anything else I did in my 20s, in grad school or elsewhere, that's like a huge origin point for me. And that course assigned an article by Dr. Gonzalo Lamana. And the article is called Beyond Exoticization and Likeness, Alterity and the Production of Sense in the Colonial Encounter. And if you open up the first page of A Desolation Called Peace, you'll see that I've cited the article in the epigraph of this book. It's that central. It's a hook into the story. It's a fish hook, the kind that gets caught in a lip. Lamana is writing about the meeting of the Inca Emperor Atahualpa and Vicente de Valverde, the clergyman of the Conquest Party led by Francisco Pizarro at Cajamarca. And this is an encounter that ends in a hugely bloody massacre. It is a very bad thing. It's a bad place. The article is a detailed case study of the hysteria and near hallucinatory brutality that can emerge as a consequence of what I'll call narrative mismatch, mutual incomprehensibility, and when you combine that with the ideologies of empire. Lamana draws out these two mutually unintelligible narratives of the events at Cajamarca, and one belongs to the Inca, and one belongs to the Spanish. And they don't make any sense together, and they are not mutually comprehensible. Lamana describes this encounter as an unstable present, a moment where the Inca narrative of what was happening, the Spanish narrative of the same events, destabilize each other, resulting in chaos and panic. He suggests that Inca and Spanish attempts to insert the other group into their own narratives of power and meaning, rewriting those narratives on the fly as the encounter progressed, was a very dangerous guessing game, and it eventually failed. The meeting at Camaca resulted in mutual violation of taboos. Valverde gave Atahualpa a Bible, and he described it as the Word of God. But in the Inca narrative, a powerful divine object, like Valverde was claiming this Bible to be, would in fact be understandable rather than it would actually speak. So it doesn't do that. It's got words in it. Atahualpa interprets it as an insult and a fake and drops it on the floor. I'm going to quote Lemon here. Reality was suspended. All possible breaches to Inca protocol occurred at once. The attack was chaotic and frenzied. What has been narrated following Zeres as an orderly military deed was to others more of a hallucinatory bloodbath. So the rules of the empire narrative say how things go, that say what the world is like. They are shattered. And the participants in the encounter between these two imperial powers find themselves abruptly in the wrong story. And they're operating under the rubric of a reality that they cannot make comprehensible. The things that are happening cannot happen in the world. We must correct it. It is an existential threat, and the correction that ensued was very bloody. And I am fascinated in the sense of horrified and in the sense of compelled by this story. And by Lanana's interpretation of it, which is the first time I really encountered this idea of mutually incompatible storybooks. And it's been like a decade and a half since I first read his work, and I'm still thinking about events that become so meaningless and existentially challenging that people consider truly horrific accidents, truly horrific actions that might make them stop happening. And when I came to write A Desolation Called Peace, I spent 130,000 words with Ismar, my protagonist, and she loves an empire and she knows that monster roasted. And it's imposed, but she loves it anyway. And I wanted to think about whether there were other ways to make a situation marked by deeply threatening meaninglessness come to an end other than violence, whether there are ways out of the trap. I wanted to ask this question on the bridge of the spaceship, military science fiction setting, with all of the trappings of an alien encounter, first contact, field diplomacy. I want to keep all that. I love it. That space is a borderland. It's the same kind of borderland I've been writing about, like I feel like my whole life now. And that means it's unstable already. And also secretly, ever since I read does anyone know the Foreigner series by C.J. Cherryh? So book 6 with the diplomacy in spaceships between 3 different languages and 3 different species. I've been wanting to see if I could do it. Could I pull that off? Could I do something that Cherryh did that well? This is kind of a very theoretical talk I realize I'm giving, but theory lives right alongside affective desire and aesthetic recognition for me. Like it's always, can I ask this question that comes out of engagement with sociology and history, but can I ask this question also as a craft challenge to myself? Can I pull this off? Can I make something that makes me feel when I read some of these authors I love? So, borderlands are fragmented landscapes. It's the borderland, in the borderland, that encounters between disparate, opposing, and unequal groups take their most vivid forms. And in a sense, this encounter, which is at the heart of the Desolation Called Peace, it doesn't simply take place within a borderland. It is central to the very definition of a borderland, to the rendering of a geography indeterminate. The presence of the encounter, the meeting between 2 or more groups that can mutually recognize one another as other in a space which is ambiguous, is what makes that space a borderland, makes it an edge between places. And even more so, it's the encounter within a borderland that is most threatening and must be managed and rendered understandable by the groups involved in it. Thus, it has a particular function within the narrative of empire and imperialism. The description of the encounter is, I'm going to quote Lamont again, deployed to recount the dramatic spatial and temporal comings together of different geographical imaginations that are often marked by highly unequal relations of power. Borderlands are not clean, they're not easily demarcated, they are not linear borders like the borders of the modern nation state, not that those are terribly clear either. And they're perhaps even messier when they're science fictional. But the borderland encounter is a narrative tool for both imperial and anti-imperial ideologies. It's a place that you can peel apart assumptions. So I wanted to ask that question: what is the possible response to incomprehensibility? And it's a question that has always felt like a key question. It's the question she's been asking all along. Whether she gets to be human in text color, whether there is the possibility of any comprehension ever at all. And it's funny, I didn't let her answer it in the book. I gave the answer to another character entirely, and after I did that, I thought about it, and I'm still not sure. I don't know what my own answer is. Can we comprehend one another? Can we see each other very well, and not retreat, flinching into negation? Maybe. Sometimes. If we're lucky. The problem with writing speeches that come from a lot of different places is that then you have to write a conclusion to them. I'm really bad at that. I feel like I should come to a place now, having told you like all of this historical theoretical work that is in some ways really in the background of what I write. You could read the books and not know anything about it, and it wouldn't matter. I hope, fingers crossed, that they are an experience unto themselves. But I feel as though I should have some kind of conclusion here. And I have a conclusion in the book. I think it's hopeful, but it's not complete. And the books I'm working on now ask different questions in different ways. They're more about responsibility, I think, and like responsibility in art. So I don't know. I guess like I want to throw it all out to you, who have been so lovely in welcoming me here. I've never been here before. It's awesome to come to a part of the state, part of the world I've never been to. It's one of my favorite things to do. But can we see each other? Do we get to? Are we that lucky? Maybe. Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So this will turn to Jackie back. We'll see. If not, there we go. As this is loading here, we will conclude our 10 final questions here for our trivia. We'll see how the scores go. Just a reminder, the team to beat right now is Table 8. Table 8, raise your hand. Table 8 is killing it. Just saying. Table 9, looking at you. I'm going to blame everything on Sam and Tanika. All right. Okay, are we ready to continue? Question 11. What is the name and correct spelling of the Klingon homeworld in Star Trek? What's that? Is it not?
What is this correct spelling? Yeah, I guess that's the big one.
One second. Sorry, 1 second. It is not beginning. So. I know, I'm trying to get past it. I know, I was trying to get past it. So we may already explore that one. That's okay. All right, we good? We're good. Okay. All right, are you ready? Correct spelling is Kronos. Obviously, it's Kronos, right? Who has it? All right, we've got. You have phonetic? But it did say spell. So, all right, who had it correctly here? We had table 6. BA. Okay. All right. Very good. Okay, moving on. Question 12. If you wrote it in Cleon Heritage. What's the title of this novel? What is the title of this novel? Going, gone. It is, of course, The Humanoids by Jack Williamson. All right, so we've got table 2, we've got table 3, we've got table 4. We have tables 5 and 6. Table 1, did you have it? Okay. Oh, that's right, you did have it, that's all. Table 9, why am I speaking in prejudice? All right, table 9, good job. Okay, all right, next up. In the Expanse series, Holden's crew names their Martian frigate the Roxanante, in allusion to what classic text? This is a toss-out to the academics. Going, gone. Don Quixote, named after the knight's horse. We got tables 1, table 2, table 3, table 5, table 6, table 7, table 9, good. Table 10, and table 11. Good job. Okay. In Douglas Adams's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, quote, the last ever dolphin message, misinterpreted as a surprisingly sophisticated attempt to do a double backward somersault through a hoop while whistling the Star Spangled Banner, actually translates to what? Actually translates to what? Going. And it is, of course, so long, and thanks for all the fish. All right. Take 1, take 2, oh no, take 3. Did I break the hard streak? 5, table 6. They're easier than last year's? No. Table 7, table 8, table 10. Did I get, oh, sorry, I got you 7. And table 11. I got you 6. Thank you. Okay. Question 15. Ours is the Fury. Which house motto? Going. Wow. Okay. It's House Baratheon. Ooh, table 6. Wait, sorry, table 7. And table 11. Okay. Question 16. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is often considered the first science fiction novel. But what is the name of her other science fiction novel, which is a post-apocalyptic dystopian narrative? Table 7 should have the Going. Gone is, of course, The Last Man. Unfortunately, it's not. Is that Y the last name over there? I don't know. I think that does it. The Y. I don't know. All right. It's 5. We got 5. We got 6. We got 7. And we got 10. Very good. All right, it's heating up here. Just an update. We have a 2-way tie for first place right now. Tables 6 and 7 are in the lead, with tables 5 and 8 right behind. So. Question 17. The original publisher of Herbert's Dune, Chilton Publishing, was best known for publishing what? What type of material were they best known for publishing? Going. Some people got it. Going, gone. Prior to Dune, Chilton primarily published automobile manuals. Automobile manuals. So, we got 1, we got 2, we got 3, we got 4, we got 5, we got 6, we got 7. That's close enough. 7, we got 8, we got 9, we got 10, and 11. So, everybody. And apparently I thought this was a hard one. Okay, all right. Question 18. Which character speaks the first line in the 1977 Star Wars? Which character speaks the first line in the 1977 Star Wars? Going, gone. It is, of course, C-3PO. Hear that? Shut that name right. Be sure for sure this is madness. All right, so we got table 2. We have table 3. We got table 4. Table 5. Table 6. Table. Oh, I missed you one. I'm so sorry. We got table 8. And we have table 10. And we have table 11. All right. I am just now discovering that apparently it downloaded the wrong version of my PowerPoint. So 1 second. Wouldn't be an event if we didn't have technical issues. Right? It does require a little shuffling around, so my apologies. So unfortunately, the questions are in slightly different order, so I'll have to skip ahead to get to layer 1. Again, my apologies, tech issues. We have 2 more questions. All right. This version also had pictures. I'm sorry you didn't get them. And I fixed other problems. It's fine. I'm definitely not going to obsess about this. Thank you. Thank you, Lucy. Oh, no, don't. I'm so sorry. That was question 16, but it's okay. It's okay. We'll move on.
You're gonna ask us one more question.
Here we go. Question 19. What is the title of this book? What is the title of this book? Going, gone. All right, it is, of course, the Sword of Shannara. All right, so we've got table 2, table 3, table 5, table 6, table 11. Okay, and I believe that I ran out of my questions here because I messed up on that one. So we have to go to a tie-off because we have a tie for table 5 and 6, and I have something for this. Give me just a moment. Table 5 and 6, this will be a question just for y'all. I know you're so excited about this. Opening line of Neuromancer, there we go. Well, nobody got the Neuromancer question last time, so. Okay. Sorry, table 5. Table 5. Name. Where'd it comes up. Name one of these wizards. Just one. And we'll go until the table can't answer one. Table 5, what do you got? Jafar. Okay. Table 6, name one wizard. Stephen Strange. Table 5, name another wizard. Who? Hal. All right, from Howl's Moving Castle. Thank you. Question, or table 6, name another wizard.
Gandalf.
Gandalf. Okay. Table 5, Tim. Table 6,
Willow Upgood.
Willow Upgood. Good. Table 5, Dumbledore. Table 6,
Urko.
Urko. Which one is that? Just for everybody.
The glowing eye guy.
Thank you. Yes, Black Wizard from Fantasy. Thank you. Okay. All right. Table 5. Oz. Thank you. Good call. Table 6. Which one? All right. Which one is that? Second on the left, right here. Thank you. Just so everybody's on the same page. All right. Table 5. Constantine. Good. Table 6.
We'd like to phone a friend.
Table 6. If table 6 does not match table 5 for an answer in this round, they lose. Table 6. Merlin. Thank you. What do I want to call Merlin? Okay, good. Table 5 goes to you for the winning, or well, for keeping it alive. Yes. Quote. Good. This is quote. Yeah, thank you. Quote. All right, table 6. Going.
Cookie Crisp Wizard.
What's that?
Cookie Crisp.
We're looking for a name here.
Mr. Cookie Crisp.
Now
Sir Cookie Crisp.
we know. Table 5 takes it. Everybody, take 5 minutes. Okay. So thank you all for playing. And thank you all for coming to our lunch events. Thank you all for making Lectureship a wonderful event for another year. We are not done. We have more events coming. In just a little bit, at 2 o'clock in Chihuahua, we'll have a gaming event. And then you can see all these events in your program. At 3 o'clock in Chihuahua 111, we'll have a panel on Climate's Vampire with several of our panelists. And we also will have in 104 a panel on world building. At 4:10, we'll have panels on AI and write fiction and new genres. And at 5:20, we'll have panels on short attention span, which is a quick fire session with questions from our audience. And we will have a question on the craft and routine of writing. All right, thank you all. Come what you can. Oh, and sorry, 2 more things, my bad. Tomorrow, we do have a writing workshop with Connie Willis. You're all welcome to attend. And finally, please, we have many books here for sale. Many of these authors are here. I'm certain if you ask kindly, we'll sign a book for you. And they'll also be here this afternoon. Thank you. Thank you all.